Did you know that every single day here in the United States, 90 people die from car accidents? They're attributable to reckless driving. They're attributable to things like alcohol and drugs. They're attributable to distracted driving. My name is Stacey Walters. I'm going to be your legal guide today to talk about how do we prepare for the unexpected. You know, our world right now is in such a state of uncertainty. I saw this morning on the news an elderly gentleman. He was 75 years old, and he was pushed by an officer. He fell on the video footage that I saw. He hit his head on the concrete sidewalk and was rendered immediately unconscious with some blood that was coming out of his ear. Who was there to help him? Who's going to be at the hospital to help him? Who is going to be an advocate for him now that he can't advocate for himself? Those are things that our parents don't ever really talk with us when we're growing up about how do we prepare for the uncertainty? How do we prepare for the unexpected in life? And I'm a planner. I'm a real optimistic type person. I'm definitely not doomsday. But what I do know is if the unexpected happens, I want to make sure I'm prepared. So I'm going to talk today about 2 essential documents every single individual that is alive over age 18 and above should have in their pockets right now. And it starts off with that healthcare power of attorney. Sometimes you'll hear it called a healthcare proxy. It depends on the state, and they are very state-specific documents. Now, a healthcare power of attorney is a document that never takes effect unless you cannot make your own healthcare decision. So imagine being that gentleman that hit his head on the concrete, was unconscious. He gets to the hospital. Doctors have to make decisions, not pull the plug, not end of life, but just decisions. Who's going to be making those decisions for him? Well, if he has a healthcare power of attorney, the agent that he appointed in that document, usually it's somebody that cares about us, that loves us. If we're married, it's often our spouse. If we're older and we've lost our significant other, it's often our children. If we're younger and it's our children, then usually it's us parents. But who does he have? If he doesn't have that healthcare power of attorney, then he has no one that legally can be an advocate for him, that can make decisions for him. And the doctors are bound by the laws of whatever state he's in to operate within those realms to do whatever it is absolutely necessary. Sometimes those things, they don't necessarily comport with what our beliefs are. They don't align with what our moral freedoms are. And so when we look at that healthcare power of attorney, one of the most important roles is for the individual that we appoint to be our agent to really be aware of what would we want if something happened to us. A lot of times there are influences, for example, no vaccines. There are a lot of discussions, reports, studies, some controversies. There are religious beliefs about things like blood transfusions. And sometimes our own life experiences have crafted our thoughts about healthcare and the way we would want it for ourselves. And these are important things that you want to share with your families. One of the ways that we help our clients do this is if they believe their agent would not quite understand everything that they would want, is we have a very lengthy, customized sheet that they would then fill out to give that individual insight so they can make the best decision for them. Aside from that healthcare power of attorney having authority to make decisions, including end of life, we also have within that healthcare power of attorney authorities given to someone to do things like donate organs. I'm very blessed to know that I have a friend whose son, who was only about 15 at the time, was saved for a heart transplant. That child lives today and he's wonderful. I think he's getting pretty close to 18. Without legal authority to given to somebody, they cannot donate organs. Some of us, we don't believe that we would want certain things to happen to us after we're deceased. No cremation. I don't want an autopsy. And so within this healthcare power of attorney, you're able to give authorities or take away authorities that can limit what that agent can do. And so we use these throughout our lifetime. I tell all my clients, do not think about this document as end of life. Think about it as every other situation. You fell on the sidewalk, you broke your hip, you had to have surgery, and when you came out and they asked you where you wanted to go to rehab, you said McDonald's Playland, and that's not where we go. And so you want to make sure that you have that key document in place, because once you lack the capacity to make decisions, then we're at a point where not just anyone can make those decisions. No one can make those decisions because there's no legal authority in place for someone to make those decisions. The second absolute essential document that everybody should have, so we will have peace of mind from the time we're 18 on up, is called your financial power of attorney. Sometimes you'll hear it called a durable power of attorney or a continuing power of attorney. Durable means continuing. It means that even if you are incapacitated, it doesn't cease to have legal authority. Now, our everyday world, we really take for granted. There's all sorts of legal things we do every single day. We sign the back of a check and we go deposit it. We sign up for our Verizon cell phone under a term contract. We do things like buy a car, sell property. We do things like enter into the nursing home, apply for Medicare. All these are legal things that other individuals cannot do for you unless they have this financial or durable power of attorney. So this document, it is huge in terms of the discretion. It's very broad, and it really allows someone to do every single thing that you can do on a daily basis. And when you look at this document, I am a big proponent of making sure you have it current throughout your lifetime and you have it now. Just don't share it with that agent. But you do want to trust who you are appointing as your power of attorney, because they can do anything and everything for you that gives them the authority in that document. Now, be really careful. I want you to go take out your documents and look for a few things. Number one, when you look at these documents, they should be from the state where you currently live. Why? Well, because again, they're state specific. You are living in New Jersey, you have moved down to North Carolina, you've been here for several years, go to the hospital, doctors don't recognize this, their legal department doesn't know if it's valid under New Jersey law. In fact, the New Jersey law has changed last year, and voila, here we are without a valid healthcare power of attorney. So number one, you want to make sure it is in the state where you currently are a resident. Number two, you want to make sure it's a current document under the current laws. North Carolina has had several overhauls of these particular documents over the last 10 years, all for the better. And if you have an old, outdated document, it doesn't invalidate it. What it does do, though, is it will cause awful problems. Awful problems because there are delays. There are hurdles, there are hoops, and sometimes, yes, those documents can be turned down. I know I was dealing with a gentleman and his wife recently. She had an old power of attorney from 1991. Now, it was something called a short form, which we're going to talk about in just a minute. But this document not only was really outdated, but it was this short form. And when the legal department at this reputable bank sat down with it and took a look, they decided, nope, we're not honoring it. It won't let you, wife, do what you need to do for your husband. And unfortunately, her husband already had dementia. He already was incompetent when they came to see me. And I wasn't able to issue a new power of attorney because he couldn't sign on the dotted line, giving her the legal authority. So what ends up happening is something called a guardianship proceeding, which I'm going to cover in a different lesson, not for today. But it is a not only costly, but it's a time-consuming process, and it's not something we can just have happen immediately. It's something that usually takes us at least 2-3 months. Right now, it is taking us a lot longer because of the court schedules. They're very backlogged in order to get through that process before my client can help her husband. Now, I mentioned a minute ago the short form power of attorney. It's very simple, it's very succinct, it's in our statutes. However, what causes the issue is because it is so short, it lacks all the detail that the lawyers want, that the financial institutions want, that the investment companies want, in order to be able to say, yes, I see you have the legal authority to, for example, take money out of your spouse's IRA account. Because you can't do that. That IRA is in his name solely. And so if you want to get money out because he is in the nursing home, for example, there's a bill to pay and you need that money, the only way that that person can do it is through a valid current power of attorney. Now, North Carolina, the short form is there. I'm sure sometimes it might be really, really helpful, but they overhauled our laws. They repealed the old powers of attorney in 2018. It didn't invalidate those powers of attorney, but what we are seeing is a higher scrutiny level in the financial institutions where they're taking a lot longer. I saw one institution last summer take about 10 weeks before they got through their review process. And in fact, they didn't give it the thumbs up, they gave it the thumbs down. So not only were we in limbo for 10 weeks, but then my client could not help their loved one with what they needed to have help with. And then we were in the guardianship limbo that I'm going to discuss on a different episode. So you want to make sure that the financial power of attorney is very detailed and that it's long and it's under the current laws. North Carolina currently follows the Uniform Power of Attorney Act. It is a wonderful act. A lot of states are adopting it. It actually is helping in terms of crossing those state lines and making sure that those powers are seamless. If we move, maybe we have dual residencies, maybe we live part-time in Florida and part-time here in North Carolina. That short form, though, causes a lot of difficulty, a lot of issue. It's not detailed. It lacks the clarity that you need. Now, a lot of people always ask me, well, Stacey, do you have to record these documents? And the answer is no. Under North Carolina laws, our new powers of attorney under the Power of Attorney Uniform Act, they do not have to be recorded. In the past, it was true. They had to be recorded at the Register of Deeds. And I always warned my clients, don't record them unless you have to, because they're public record. Anybody can go on the internet, pull up the Register of Deeds and see that document. For me, I feel like it's too much authority to be out there. It is a huge, I think, issue when there is the potential availability for fraud, someone to print it out and then parade around and pretend like they're whoever is in that document. Number two, that healthcare power of attorney doesn't have to be recorded anywhere. Now, North Carolina Secretary of State does have a repository that you can file it on with the state. And the wonderful thing about doing that is, yes, no matter where you're at, then the hospitals, the doctors, they can go to this repository and they can locate the healthcare power of attorney. But one of the things I recommend for these documents with my clients, carry them with you. Copies and scans work great, so keep a copy on your cell phone. Keep a copy in your luggage or keep a copy in the glove box of your car. If you're in a car accident, the first place they're going to go look is they're going to get in that glove box. They're looking for registration. They want to know who owns the car. If they see that contact information in there, that's who they're going to be contacting. So across your lifetime, you have to know that these documents are not a one and done deal. You can't just check off that box and decide that you are not going to update these documents. They're key for every single one of us, and we use them constantly throughout our lifetime. So you really want to make sure to keep those current and to make sure that you have them in the state if you move or you have relocated to, so you know that they're compliant with those laws. So again, I'm Stacey Walters with Thomas Walters Law Firm. All we do is focus on estate planning and wills and trust. It's been my privilege to be your legal guide today, and I look forward to teaching you many more things because we know education is key to you having your perfect plan in place. Happy estate planning.